Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle. And I have the honor and privilege of being with my beautiful wife and partner and just my everything. Hello, Jami.
Hello there.
I love you. I don't think I've told you that enough today, so I'll start with that.
I'll take it.
Okay. All right.
Give me more.
I will give you. I'll give you it all, babe. Which maybe that's a good part to talk about today. So our conversation today and what we want to talk about is this mindset, philosophy, principle, whatever way, life guidance of how you do anything is how you do everything. And you gave this to me probably within, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of meeting you and falling in love with you, which, yes, I did fall in love with you the very first moment. And maybe that's why it resonated so much.
You're gonna make me cry.
Well, don't cry, honey. I mean, you can. It's okay for crying. It can be a crying.
It's a crying
day.
show. This is a crying show, guys.
And that's all right. I love the emotion. But I just remember when you said that to me, how much that really resonated with me. And you know, let me be 100% candid as we talk about this and just some other approaches to life that we are working to perfect. And maybe that's where we start, is that we're all works in progress, WIPs, and that applies in the world of bodybuilding. It applies in the level of our professional lives, our careers, and being a human. I mean, I am always working on being a better human, whether it's through things that I read, people I contact with, whatever. I'm always thinking about how do I be better. In that process, I am not going to tell you that I am better. It's a process. It is a constant evolution. And one of the things that you and I both live by is the best leaders are lifetime learners. And so we're always learning about this stuff. So as we go into this discussion, this conversation, I want to be clear that, yes, we are doing our best to live by these principles and philosophies, but it is a process. It is not a destination. It is not something that we execute fully or completely or expertly every day. It is stuff that we are working on. It's the reason why we use the term balancing rather than balance, because we're constantly seeking that center point. It's the reason we call it bodybuilding and not body built. So this is no different than that. I don't know if that's a good lead-in for this topic.
That's a perfect lead-in for this. And the reason I said that to you so quickly is because it was something I saw in you. And it's something I don't see.
Now you're going to make me cry.
I know. It's something I don't see frequently, quite honestly. And I think it's, like you said, there's no such thing as perfect. We're all working on ourselves constantly. It's what impressed me about watching you and what inspired me to work on being better about this is just the way you handle even the small things, like the interactions. It could be an interaction with a stranger. It could be just anything that you do, like is very well thought out as to how it's going to affect the people around you as well as yourself. And so that really inspired me. And when I did find that quote, you know, it's something that has really stuck. And I feel like you and I have continued within our relationship to keep working on using this principle to help us keep growing. And yeah. Like you said, like, you know, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where having somebody that you trust to give you feedback is really helpful. And so with us being able to give each other feedback on things, you know, maybe the way something came across or, you know, the way we handle different situations, you know, so that even the small things are still, you know, well considered and well executed.
Well, and I'm glad you really brought up the small things, because throughout my life, I've always been inspired by things that I thought had no meaning at the time they occurred. And then afterwards, somebody took the time and cared enough about me to tell me how that situation impacted them or how it affected them. And, I maybe it's too early in this episode to put a call to action out, but I'm going to put this call out right now and ask you, is there somebody out there that has impacted you positively that you could take the moment to just send them a text or get them on the phone or send them a note and say, hey, when you said something to me, like what I just told Jami about how when she said that to me, what an impact it made in my life. Is there somebody that you could do that to? I got a text from somebody today that visited us a couple weeks ago, and she told us how just a little conversation that we had, how much it affected her. And when you tell me, how much I go into those little things, I don't necessarily go into those situations thinking, oh, this is going to be a lifetime thing or this is going to be an impact thing. I am really wanting to put myself in that moment with that person and connect with them and say, man, I really want to help this person in whatever way I can. And oh, by the way, they're helping me as well. So how can I make this moment, this little 2 seconds of time or 10 seconds of time or whatever it is meaningful for myself and for them. And I'll tell you, I come up short more than I care to think about in my own mind. And that's really kind of, maybe a good segue into talking about the stories we tell ourselves.
Right. We all have those things. I mean, as you're talking, one of the things that came to my mind, and when we talk about the way you do, anything is the way you do everything, one of the things I thought about just that I do, that I have done, that I've been working on is like patience with people. I do find that when I'm in person, and I do think we see this a lot, and we've talked about social media and text versus like having even a phone conversation or an in-person conversation. A lot of times we're more aware of how we're impacting people when we're in person or even on the phone versus, nowadays where we're just shooting off text messages and emails and that kind of thing. But I was thinking about how, where we live, it's a little bit complicated to find sometimes, and we'll have deliveries quite frequently. And when we first moved in, I would get impatient with people that would be coming in, and I would be a little bit snippy and a little bit rude, quite honestly, because a lot of times I'm just busy. I'm doing other things. I'm distracted, and you told me. I mean, there was one time you're like, that was not so nice, and I just took a step back and I'm like, wow, I would never talk to somebody face to face like that. So why am I, giving this person such a hard time? And I really shifted my mindset at that point. And, every time it's happened since then, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, of course, but I do, before I pick up the phone or respond to the text message, I kind of center myself. I get into the present moment and I go, yeah, it's complicated. If you've never been here before, it can be confusing. It can be frustrating. Let me just be patient with this person and ask them questions and help them, or go and meet them, because I would be really mad if I had to go do that because I'm like, that's not what I'm paying for you to do. It just really kind of helped me shift my mindset a little bit and thinking about, it's a little thing. It's not somebody I'm even going to see or talk to again, probably. And at the same time, like, what must that feel like when I'm being rude, nasty, impatient? What is that person going to feel like for the rest of their day, for the rest of their week? Like, what is that making me feel like after I've treated somebody that way? That's certainly not going to uplift me in any sort of way. So, being able to go, what, this is a person, maybe they're having a terrible day. Maybe they're going through something really hard. I don't know what's going on in their lives. Like, can I treat them with kindness and respect? Absolutely, I can. I can take a pause, take a breath and have that conversation. And, I think these are the little things we're talking about, that can affect us and those around us.
And it is really being present in that moment with yourself and with whoever else you're connecting with. And I've given presentations where I've asked the audience, how many of you have ever been cut off on the freeway? And everybody puts their hands up. And I said, how many of you have gotten mad at that other person for cutting you off? And everybody raised their hands. And then he asked the third question, which is, how many of you have cut somebody else off?
Right.
And everybody's hands go up. And then the last question is, did you do it intentionally? If you did so unintentionally, raise your hand. And everybody's hands usually go up. And the point of this is simply to walk you through that aspect that you have been where most people are, one way or the other, and giving the human race the benefit of the doubt and recognizing that, and listen, I'm not naive. There are some bad players out there. There are some bad people out there that really have, evil in their hearts, and I don't underplay that. I still want to believe the best in the human race and the best in my fellow man, and so if you can, and this, we've talked about this in the bodybuilding world about putting space between stimulus and response, which is the key to really managing hunger impulses, managing, lack of motivation, being less reactive and more thoughtful in your process. But you get that stimulus, okay, somebody cuts you off, and your response is immediately, go to the bird or go to the words or honk on the horn or whatever. Well, what if the person that just cut you off was taking their spouse to the hospital because they're having an emergency, or they're giving birth, or a number of other things? Or maybe they're rushing to the school because their child, they just got a call from the school and their child was injured in some way. I mean, imagine that. And I'm not saying that's the truth in everything, okay? But I am saying if you can create that space between stimulus and response and really just kind of put yourself in the moment, your response may be different. Your response may be a lot different and a lot more wholesome and fulfilling, maybe not for the other person, but for you. And, that's as we talk about the how you do anything, forgiveness is really part of that piece. Is that when you're forgiving somebody, you're not just forgiving them for the other person, you're forgiving them so you can let go of the burden of that bitterness. The Tim McGraw song of always be humble and kind. There's a line in there of don't be bitter because it keeps you from flying, and making me emotional as I'm thinking about it, because it's so true in life. There's a story I think I've told you of an African tribe that if somebody is murdered in the tribe, the tradition is that the family of the person who was killed has the choice to either kill the assailant or to forgive them and let them go. And I find that just fascinating in terms of just, how you do anything, is that if forgiveness is in your heart and if forgiveness is to just let go of these things, and man, I'm not telling you I'm always good at that, because I'm not. It's hard to forgive on certain things. But when you can do that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, because I know that we've had this conversation about forgiveness and stuff, and man, it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll do as a human.
Well, the interesting thing about it is, while it is hard, at the same time, harboring the anger, the sadness, the frustration, all the things that kind of go along with whatever you're forgiving really impacts me more than really the person I'm upset about in most cases. So, I do think that, that's something that when we can go to that place of forgiveness, and it can be a huge weight lifted off of the person doing the forgiveness, So I do think that that's a huge thing. And, that we talk about small things, we talk about big things, and kind of that's what this whole episode is about, is just those things that are harder to forgive are usually the big things,
right?
And then kind of thinking about how we're walking through our lives and every day. And if we start to modify some of the small things that we're doing to be more conscientious and more intentional with what we're doing, then it starts to become easier to then go to those bigger things that, maybe that's forgiveness that's needed, or apology if it was on the other side of things that's needed, or a change of behavior. Some of the bigger things that we need to address in our lives is just kind of chipping away a little bit at the bigger, we all have it. We all have the things we need to work on in ourselves, our personalities, in our lives. And so sometimes starting to address some of those smaller things where, being a little bit kinder, being a little bit more conscientious, that starts to bleed into and make the bigger things easier.
And I know we've, that reminded me of something is that, I think everybody's heard the expression of you've got baggage, and everybody's got baggage. I mean, every human being has baggage of whatever experiences they've had, good or bad, trauma or not trauma, but just very emotional things. I don't really, I'm not a psychologist and can't tell you what trauma is, because I think it's so unique to every person. What is traumatic for one person may be brushed off the shoulders of another person. So I don't think there's a bright line test of what trauma is. And psychologists out there may disagree and say, well, according to DSM-5, it's this or whatever. But I think trauma is very unique to everybody. And we all have baggage, but my saying about baggage is that everybody has baggage, but some people carry it with them every day, and some people leave it in the closet when they go out, and that's a choice. And that then lends itself into that discussion of forgiveness of what is that? What does forgiveness do, not just for the other person, but what does it do for you? And maybe that sounds selfish, but and perhaps it is on a certain level. But I do think when you are carrying around that vitriol, that poison, that anger, that bitterness, it does hold you down. It is that weight around your neck. The old expression is an albatross around your neck. And I do think letting that go is really important for your own healing, regardless of the other person. And then, and we've had dear friends, you and I, not you and I, but we have dear friends that are close to us. And there's times when those dear friends piss us off.
There's times we pissed each other off.
Exactly. And I was talking with one of our coaches the other day, and I was talking about, just being able to express yourself with a friend, especially if a friend does something that pisses you off. And I said, what the discussion was that two things are going to happen. Either one, you're going to carry that, or it's really three things. Either one, you're going to carry that bitterness and you're never going to express yourself to that person. Tell them whatever they did that pissed you off or that offended you or affected you. And if you do that, I would ask you to ask yourself this: is that really a friend? Is that really somebody that you can trust with your heart and with your love? And that's what a friend should be. So that's the first scenario, is that you're just going to carry it, not express. And then I would ask you, is that really a friend? The second thing is that if you express it to them and they respond negatively, then maybe they weren't your friend to begin with.
Or maybe you're out of line.
Or maybe you're out of line.
So, you got to go into it with, I think, an open mind and see both sides of it,
that's absolutely accurate. And everybody's got a different perspective on conflict.
Because I say that because I know that I can be defensive sometimes when people bring things to me. And, sometimes I feel that it's warranted. In some cases, I have to then take it and process it and realize, okay, maybe I was just being defensive and I need to be a little bit more open to getting this feedback. So I do think every situation is different. And, when we go and we approach certain things like this, we have to look at both sides and keep an open mind. It's interesting, as you were going through and talking about friends in life, somebody who I was friends with for many years that I'm no longer friends with, she was one of these people that always assumed the worst. Literally. I mean, if we went to a grocery store and the person who was checking us out didn't smile or went too slow or something else, oh, she's out to get me. She doesn't like me. She's got something against me. There was kind of this constant sort of sense of thinking the worst, thinking the most negative in all of these situations. And it just kind of became so toxic that I couldn't have this person in my life. And it wasn't that this was a bad person. It was just everything she was filtering through this lens of things that had happened and people that had hurt her in the past. And so, there were just kind of this constant sort of triggering sort of thing. And, obviously we talked about it, and it was just something that was that she just really, really needed to work on. But I've seen, I've seen myself in these.
Did you express what you were feeling around her to her?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think it's one of those things where it wasn't something she could at that time or was willing to adjust, because she really felt so strongly that people were out to get her or not accepting her. And obviously that came from from past trauma. And everything was reflected then, back from that standpoint. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting how, each of us is really looking at the world through the lens of our makeup, our our nurture and our nature and all the things that have happened in our lives. And so, being open to like looking at different perspectives and hearing different perspectives can help us to be better.
It's the three versions of the truth, right? Your version of the truth, my version of the truth, and the truth, whatever that is. In coaching training that I've had over the years, corporate wise, it was the three people in the room. If you imagine the employee's perspective, your perspective is as their supervisor or their leader. But then if there was a third chair in that room and they're observing this, what would their perspective be? And are you able? And I mean, this is part of life evolution for everybody. For me, is that, and I've gone through this where when I've done this, it has led to deeper conversations with the person. When I have not planned the conversation, but played it out in my mind, okay, what would I be feeling if I was Billy? Okay. And I'm talking to Billy about a performance issue or something that I've noted, and whether Billy's an employee or a friend, if I just take a moment to think, what's Billy's perspective? And then what's my perspective? And then the third perspective is, okay, if I was looking at this objectively and wasn't Billy and wasn't Greg, how would I feel about this? What would my perspective be on that scenario? And taking a moment to kind of go through that has been very helpful for me when I have taken the time to do it. And I'm not saying that it's a tool that you need to use every time, but I am telling you that when you care enough about something, feedback is caring. We've talked about that, and I will keep talking about that. Is that when you care enough to give somebody feedback, and if they truly do care about you, and if you truly do care about them, yeah, it may get crunchy. I think Brene Brown calls it rumbling with vulnerability, and I love that concept. If you're going to rumble, and by rumble, I mean you're going to get in there and you're going to express yourself. You're going to talk about that raw emotion. You're going to express yourself. You're going to talk about the things that are affecting you. If you're willing to do that, that conversation, that individual conversation, may not go the way you want it to go. Okay, it can go off the rails. It can go. The other person can get defensive. You can get defensive. It can be name calling. It can be this and that and the other thing. But what I have found is that through that conflict, if that person really does care about you, and we've experienced this in our marriage, I would say, we've had difficult conversations. We've had times when we've had to express ourselves. It got crunchy. It got difficult. We always got closer after that. I mean, I hope, I don't know whether you agree with that.
I absolutely agree
Okay.
with it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's true for all relationships. I mean, there's no situation where there's never going to be a misunderstanding or, somebody does something that, your favorite word triggers the other person.
Right.
But I mean, it is a thing, it's, we all have our own, as our performance coach talks about our minefields, we have minefields and people don't necessarily always know when they're stepping on the mines. And if we don't let them know, hey, that was a mine, you just stepped on it and it just, really made me feel this certain way, then we can't grow from it. And it's not always going to be easy. And, the thing I think that's really interesting about this subject and kind of what I was talking about initially with you as well is that, we're kind of going into like those deeper relationships, like with us, our marriage, our close friendships, things like that. But I feel like, even starting with those relationships with people, again, I talked about with the people we don't know, I'm thinking about, we travel a lot and there can be a lot of frustrations in traveling and, just taking a moment to be a little bit patient with people. There's just so many little things. Like if we're going to get in line to get on the plane and, somebody, we're finding our spot, hey, what number are you? Or somebody's cutting in line in front or, leaving garbage when you get up from your seat, rather than picking it up, cleaning up, a little bit around you, just being conscientious about. It's just when you do those little things, and this is, again, something like I've observed for you. I've watched you like help people with their bags when they're on the plane or give, if there's an older person or a pregnant person on the tram, you'll get up and offer your seat. Like, I feel like when we talk about the little things and how they affect us and the way that we see the world when we're behaving this way, that's to me gold. Like it's something that I feel like I've gotten better at because I've been with you.
That's very kind.
And you just do it naturally. I joke around that I thought you were.
I do it because my dad did it.
which is amazing. You know, I just used to joke around that I thought you were a serial killer because I'm like, nobody's actually this great.
Well, the jury's still out on that.
And this kind and this wonderful. And, you know, but it really truly is something that's very, very natural for you. And that's, you know, you having that modeled for you growing up, I'm sure had a huge role in that. But I just know that like watching you do that and my love and admiration and respect has made me want to be more that way. And when I am more that way, and I'm certainly not perfect, for sure, I'm definitely a work in progress. It just like, I see how it creates more of that. You know, like the things we model and the things that we do in our lives are what create more richness and the deeper relationships that we have.
That's the Gandhi principle of be the change that you want to see in the world. And I do think that is accurate, that if you want to be that thing, you've got to model that behavior. You can't just expect it to appear. And you know, you made me think about something about letting people know that are close to you when something irritates you or is a trigger. And I was just thinking back when you were in prep, and I would be eating something next to you, and I'm not mindful of it at the time, but you're in prep and heavy, and I mean your food was super low, and I'm chewing like almonds or something that you could not have at that time,
right in my ear, and I could smell them.
Yeah. And you let me know it very, very candidly and very truthfully and directly. And I think you yelled a little bit at me, but and it's okay. And I mean, at that moment when you said that to me, I was not pissed off. Because I was thinking about how much I love you and not how much because it didn't bother me. I mean, okay, I need to go chew over there. No big deal. I'm just not aware of the fact that I'm doing something that's triggering you. And I just felt actually very, could it have been delivered a little bit differently? Absolutely. But the aspect that I viewed it from was that, okay, you're going through this and I'm not helping. I'm hurting you in that. So thank you for giving me the feedback so I can then adjust my behavior because I didn't know. And, you know, it begs the question, like, you know, little things, leaving the toilet seat down if you're a guy. And if you've never sat on a toilet without a toilet seat, well, it's not, and I have, it's not a good experience. And men, if you're out there and you haven't done, just do that just to sensitize yourself to it. It seems like a little thing, but at the end of the day, man, it's like, I don't understand the people that say, well, this person's always on me for this person's always on me for that. And I said, well, how hard would it be for you just to change that behavior? I mean, is it really that hard? I think we resist so many things that we're holding on to as a matter of some jaundiced view or some skewed view of what pride is or honor is. And to me, man, the greatest honor is knowing that I'm doing something to show you how much I love you. That's how I honor our relationship, is by listening to you. And that's how I honor humankind, is by, if I know something is going to upset somebody, I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that?
Right. Yep. And, you know, serving others, giving to others, showing kindness and respect to others, you know, it is what feeds my soul. Like, it is what makes me happy. And it's not always easy. And that's the thing, is that, you know, like when we described the situation you were talking about, when I'm hungry, I'm on edge. And so, you know, when you're prepping, when you're part of this bodybuilding world, there's going to be days you're uncomfortable, period. I mean, you're not going to be successful without getting uncomfortable. And quite honestly, most things in life, if you really want something that's hard, if you really want something that is meaningful to you, it's probably going to get uncomfortable and hard at sometimes.
That's right.
You know, we talked about, you know, if you want to succeed, you got to ask yourself, you know, what do you want and what are you willing to do to get it? Like, you know, how uncomfortable.
Why do you want?
Why do you want? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I know for me, you know, I had to adjust some of the things that I was doing to be more conscientious, because with kids and a husband, I would do my best to time, you know, my food. You know, like if I was picking up the kids from school, I would make sure to eat my meal on the way so that I'd have a little bit more patience with them, things like that. But those are those little things that, like, just caring about people and thinking about how you're affecting those around you is so important. And I think in this world, this bodybuilding world, where it is very me focused. I mean, if I'm competing, every moment of my day is thought out, is scheduled out, from, my meal preps, my meals, my cardio, my workouts, my water, my sodium, my posing practice. I mean, there's like a lot that's going into it. And then most people that are doing it also are working, or they're, they might have kids or a spouse. Like they have other, it's not the only thing. It's all encompassing, and it's not the only thing that you're doing. So I do think that, especially in our world, this is such an important concept of going, I have to think about how I'm affecting those around me. I have to think about, how, not just me, but how all these little things are going to impact, other people, and then even go the extra mile, at those times that we're feeling a little bit edgy and irritable and things like that.
As I go back and think about my life and the accomplishments that I've made or haven't made or whatever they are, and I'm not downplaying those. Those are significant to me and they were meaningful to me. But most of the meaning that I've found in life is when I know that I have done something to help somebody else. That those have been the biggest accomplishments in my life. And so if you're listening to this right now and you are a competitor, I'm going to talk to you, but I'm also going to talk to the loved ones around you. And if I need to pause for a second to get them to listen to this for a minute, I just really want you to hear what I'm going to say. When you were competing, it was tough. And I mean, I was working a lot. And when I came home, it was, sometimes, I would come home to whatever mood you were in at that day. If you were 2 hours out of a meal, you were not in the best of moods. But I knew that it was important to you. And because I knew that it was important to you, it became important to me. And you weren't degrading my day. You weren't negatively affecting me. It was just, I needed to embrace the fact that I wanted you to be successful. So in that process of putting you first in that moment, that was easy. That was an easy decision. That was not even difficult. And you've done that with me when things have been important to me. You have put me first. And I would just tell you that if you're married to a competitor, if you are in a relationship with a competitor, just take for a moment the fact that this is important to them and find a way to support them, because in that support of them, we see this all the time and with our athletes, is the athletes who have a really good support structure around them, people who encourage them, people who embrace the lifestyle, not just, hey, I don't know what you do with that show. They come to the with their loved ones to the shows. They support them. They'll take pictures with them. They'll
make T-shirts with their name on it.
That's right. That
posters.
Matters. That matters. That can be the difference. That's really what winning is. That matters so much more than a trophy or anything else that you're doing it for. So if you have that opportunity to support the person that surrounds you in this lifestyle, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's career, whether it's education, development, whatever it is, take that moment to do that, because wouldn't you want the same thing? And by and large, I think you may be getting it and you don't even realize it, that same level of support.
Yeah. And I think another thing that can be really helpful is getting involved where you can, because I know that was something that worked really well for us, because you like to go to the gym. So we had different programs and we were working out differently, but we would go together and we always felt closer. And even now, like we feel closer when we do those kinds of things, whether it's even going for a walk or, just, there's just so many ways that you can support those people around you, whether, they're competitors or, like you said, maybe they're in school and they're, going for a degree that's taken a lot out of them, or they have a very demanding job, or whatever the situation is. I don't know, just giving people the benefit of the doubt at the end of the day, and a little bit of kindness, a little bit of space to process their own things, and knowing that we're all doing the best we can. We are.
And you made me think of something, because, one of my things that I love is if we're, first of all, I'm going to give a shout out to my dad, Guido. God rest your soul. I know you're doing, and Margaret, my mom, you guys just were the best parents ever. And I'm going to get a little bit emotional here. So I'm going to, okay. So they were just the best parents in the world. And my dad, whenever he was out, I was just always impressed by how he touched the world in such a kind and compassionate way. He just made a difference in everybody's life that he touched. And so we'll be in a store or something, and the salesperson or clerk at whatever it is that we're doing, and if they're having a bad day, I personally take it upon myself to see if I can get them to smile.
You do.
And I take it that, and I mean, oftentimes it's just asking a question, which is, hey, are you having an okay day? Because they may not be aware that they're coming across as a butt at that time. And so just sometimes asking people that little question of, because what I've found is that more often than not, like a lot of them will say, I'm fine. Why do you ask? Or it just kind of sets them on that thing of, man, maybe I'm being a jerk right now, and I need to level set myself. And you've seen that in certain interactions where I just ask that question, are you having an okay day? Or I'll tell them a joke or something, or just act.
He'll say some things sometimes. They'll look at me like, oh,
I will.
I'm like, he's kidding.
Yeah, you're my straight man, because you're always having to explain. No, that's a joke. But it's something that I just have found that if you're really curious and you really care about somebody, and by care I mean, look, I don't need to have a relationship with this person. I'm not going to tell you I love them or anything, but I am going to say that they're a human and they matter. And if you're a human and you matter, then if I have that opportunity to kind of not check you, but not contribute to whatever it is that you're having that day, you can make such a difference in somebody's life just in that moment of caring.
That is so true. I mean, I think about times that I've been feeling down and somebody will smile at me, or, tell me I look nice, or just something. Like, it's just amazing the difference you can make in somebody's life just by just being kind. And I think that's really, really why we wanted to talk about this subject today, because life is a roller coaster ride. There's highs, there's lows. We all have bad days. We get up on the wrong side of the bed. We have things happen in our lives that are devastating at times. We lose family members. We have illnesses that come. I mean, there's just literally nobody that can go through this life unscathed. So, if we can just do little things, whether it be for a stranger or someone we care about, if we can just, think about making someone smile or making someone laugh or making somebody feel appreciated, we can just make the world that much better, and if we all approach, our interactions that way, how different would the world look,
Yeah.
So, what's the 1% rule, the 2% rule? If you change, what is it? Tell us.
I don't remember. I mean, I just know that if you change 1% over time,
It's like the tipping point.
That's right. Yeah, it's the 3% rule.
3% rule.
Yeah, the
That's
3%
what it is.
rule.
Yeah, 3% of us change, then that changes, changes everything. It's that ripple effect.
And the story that goes with that is the monkey story. We don't need to tell that story, but I was just thinking about something I read. So one of my mentors, Adam Grant, who I've never met, by the way. And so, Adam, if you're listening to this, which you're probably not, just know that you've influenced me. And Brene Brown. I'm a huge Brene Brown fanboy, unabashedly so. And Simon Sinek, another great author. But there was something that I read from Adam Grant today, which is, in transactional relationships, people only reach out when they want something from you. They use your connection to achieve their goals. In meaningful relationships, people get in touch with you when they think of you. Staying connected and being helpful are their goals. And I mean, in this conversation, I really think that is so important. And so I'm going to ask everybody to do something now. I wish I had a way to measure this to know, but man, in that 3% rule, man, if we can get just 3% of you to do it, and then 3% becomes 6%, 6% becomes 36%. I'm doing exponential. 3 to 9. Sorry, 3 to 9, 3 to 9, 9 to 81. I'm not good at math, clearly, but I would just ask all of you right now, if you're listening to this, just pause this episode, get to your phone, and or pick up your phone and call somebody. Leave them a message, though I guess people don't leave voicemails anymore. Give them a voice memo, give them a text, whatever. Just reach out to somebody randomly, whether it's somebody you contact with constantly or somebody you haven't contacted with in a while, and just say, you know what, I really want to thank you for something you did for me, and tell them what they did that's in your mind. Or you can just reach out to somebody right now and say, hey, I just wanted you to know I was thinking of you. Okay, just that. I am telling you that if you want to make an impact in life, that's the way to do it. Everybody's thinking about, how do I make an impact by growing my bank account? How do I make an impact by changing the world? If you want to change the world, change it one person at a time, and that's the starfish story, right? Do you want to tell the starfish story?
You can tell the starfish
Oh,
story.
I love the starfish story. So the starfish story is simply this, and it's been told different ways, but it's one of the stories that we really love and really resonates with us. And so there's a well-known author, it doesn't matter, author, businessman. He's walking on the beach one day, and as he's walking down the beach, he spies in the distance a little girl, and as he gets closer, he sees the little girl going back and forth into the ocean. And as he gets closer, he can see that around this little girl are thousands of starfish that have washed up on the beach. And she takes each one and she caresses it. She brings it back into the water, and then she goes and fetches another one and brings it back into the water. So he gets closer up to her, and he's watching her do this. And man, she ain't even making a dent, right? She's just doing one at a time. And as he walks up to her, he says, little girl, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm putting these starfish back in the ocean. He said, well, what possible difference could you make? Look, there's thousands of starfish out here. How could you possibly make a difference? And she picks up one, looks at him defiantly, brings it back into the water, and comes back to the man and said, well, it made a difference for that one. And so when you think about making an impact in the world, think about the starfish story. Think about, how can I just make that impact on that person's life in that moment? It will make your life better, and it will make their life better. Because I can tell you, like I said earlier, I got a text from somebody today, and it just hit me right in the heart. It just hit me right in the heart. And those days are the best days. When I get that text, especially if it comes in the morning, man, it makes the whole day different. I'll go back and read that text 2 or 3 times during the day.
Right. Yeah. I love that challenge, and I'm going to follow through on it as well. I've already got in my head, I'm thinking about who I'm doing. You're good. You're really good about that. And it's something I do want to continue to be better about, because I'll think about somebody and then the moment passes, and rather than sending them even a quick note and just letting them know I'm thinking about them, then, it'll be 2, 3, 4 times before, I actually send the note and I know we're going to wrap it up here in a minute, but I actually had a situation recently where my mom messaged me and she asked me if I was mad at her. And I was like, no, I'm not mad at you. And she's like, oh, okay, I just haven't heard from you in a while. And that really hit me, of realizing that, I got so wrapped up in work and all the things I was doing that I was not reaching out to somebody who I care about, and that, I want to know how she's doing and check on her. And, she's got things going on, and, I hadn't checked in on her for a while. So it really kind of hit me that, like, I can be better. I can be better at this. So I love that you put that challenge out, and that one's a good one for me.
Well, and you just made me think of your mom a lot, and I haven't reached out to her randomly either. So, Mama, if you're out there, and Charles, if you're out there and you're listening to this, I just want to tell you, you guys are so loved, and you make such a difference in our life. And honestly, the relationship that they have is a tremendous relationship, and it inspires us to be better, because you're really, truly 2 of the best human beings on the planet. And Ronnie, if you're out there, I call you Mr. C. We love you too, and I think that's a challenge that I'm glad we had this conversation today, because it's reminding me about people that I need to reach out to, and I do a good job of it. But again, in this process of how you do anything is how you do everything, I can be better at it. And that's what we really want to do. The last thing I'll just share with everybody is that, and I think I've shared this before, but if I haven't, this whole notion of being your authentic self. In the corporate world, I used to get this all the time, of people saying, I want to be my authentic self, and I want to show up for work, and I understand that. And I also understand that sometimes being your authentic self has got to come at the right place at the right time, because not everybody is going to receive your authentic self. If your authentic self is wearing a diaper to work, and that's the only thing you wear, that may not be the right thing. That you may be authentic, but it may not be well received. And maybe that's a gross example, but I would always talk to employees about being their authentic self, and I would use this phrase, "We'll fake it till you make it." And I would always get the same response, which is, well, if I'm faking it, how am I being authentic? And it always then led to this next part of the conversation, which is, if what you are faking is something that you truly want to embody, is truly something that you want to be, that's not faking. That is development. That is about you being the person that you want to be. So if sending these random notes of kindness out is not your authentic self, but it is something that you want to be, then just start doing it. Make that a developmental opportunity for yourself, and then it will become part of yourself. It's like building a new road in your head that you can then travel on frequently and daily. And just think how different the world would be if every day each of us sent one note, just one, and just told a random person in our lives how much they meant to us, or how much they, or just that just what we're thinking of them. Okay? Is that good?
I love it.
Okay. We done for the day?
We're done. This was awesome. No,
Okay.
I'm inspired. So I hope others that find this as inspiring as I'm finding it right now, because it just reinforced a lot of the things that you and I have talked about and things that we're still working on being better at. So,
and I will just say this in complete vulnerability. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for being with me every day. You're the best thing that I wake up to and the best thing that I go to bed to. And I always feel closer when we get to have these types of conversations. And it's a little bit of therapy, I think, for me. So thank you, my love. You're the most important thing in my world. And thank you all for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. And we do look at that information, and that does help us orient the shows that we want to do. Because at the end of the day, man, we're not doing this show for us. We're doing it for all of us. And let us know what resonates with you and what you want to hear more about. And we're happy to do those conversations with everybody. So remember the 3 B's: be good to yourself,
be good to each other,
and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBodyFusion.